Hey everybody, welcome to Mirrorless Minutes. This is our second episode. I'm here with Mr. Mike over in the Big D. I think you're shooting from home today, right? You got your new studio set up for the
Yeah,
show.
there you go. New studio.
All right. So, last show we just kind of introduced who we were. This show we're gonna kind of just get on with the format of what our show is, and I'll start off with a little bit of news. Everybody knows that I'm like this fanboy right here, and Olympus happened to announce a new camera, the PEN E-PL7. It is part of the pen line, and I have a pen right up here, so I can give you a good idea of the form factor of what this camera is going to be like. Um, It'll look something like this. Let me pop off this big old lens here. Small body. You could probably fit your iPhone or something pretty much in front of that. It's going to be very similar design to this. This camera has a tilting, swiveling LCD on the back. The cool thing with the PEN E-PL7 is that screen will actually come out and flip 180 degrees down, so it's forward facing. And with the big trend in selfies lately, which I hate to say it, but I'm a part of that as well.
I was just gonna say this camera was made for you.
Yeah, exactly. So the camera's designed so that it's a touch screen. You can touch to focus, touch to take the photo. You flip that screen down, and you can just kind of do the whole selfie thing. You can set a timer up so that you can touch it and get your hand out of the way, and do whatever it is. The teenage girls do this thing with their fingers that I don't know what in the heck it is, but so that's just one of the features of that camera. There are a few other things that the camera is capable of doing. I'm a big fan of the art filters that are built into the Olympus cameras. And the art filters, for those who don't know, just kind of give you some right in the camera creative effects that are applied. I mean, some things like a black and white. There's one that's a grainy black and white. Looks like kind of an old film, look real contrasty and gritty. They have something called dramatic tone, which is it almost looks like HDR in a way. It just has like a lot of crazy contrast and vibrancy to the colors. And now with this new pen, they've introduced a few new art filters, and they fall like right into this vintage category. I know it's real popular right now to kind of give your photos like a faded and kind of cross-processed sort of look to them. And there are three different filters that kind of achieve that look in camera. I'm not going to do like a screen share and share examples of those because they're just stock photos. I'd like to actually share photos maybe that I shoot with the camera when I get it, or from actual real users rather than stock photos taken with the camera. But just use your imagination and kind of get get an idea of what like faded old film look is going to be. So that's what the new art filters do. And then they kind of did some updates to existing things that are in the camera. Some of the newer Olympus cameras have this thing called story mode. And what you can do is you can take a series of photos and they're all put together like composited. So like one example would be you can take 4 photos and it'll be divided up almost like a triptych or a diptych or whatever you call a quadtych. I don't know what they call it, but you take one photo and it would be in this little frame right here, and then the next frame goes live and you can see from your viewfinder, and you can snap another photo and you can kind of create a story in camera with it, and it's really cool. But the way that the old story mode worked was you'd have to take all 3 and then it saves the file all in one thing. But you had to complete it right then. And one of the changes that they made now is you can start the story mode thing and then come back to it later. So you could actually make a story mode image of like your day at the beach. When you first get there and you're unpacking and setting up, that could be the first photo. And then later on in the day, when everybody sits down for lunch, you could have that be the next photo, and so on. So it's kind of cool that you can start a project in camera and then come back to it whenever you want. You can come back to it the next day, the next year, it doesn't matter, whatever. So that's kind of cool. And then last, another cool little thing, and I'm just talking about features that I find interesting. There are other features in the camera, that if you go to the Get Olympus webpage and start reading on the specs, you'll learn everything that is in this camera. Another one of the cool things that I like is that there's a movie mode, and it's kind of like this vintage movie mode where you get kind of dust and scratches on your video, kind of reminiscent of the 70s home videos, I guess. I'm not sure. It's kind of neat, though. It's one of those fun things that you can play with creatively. So those are just some of the key features that are in the EPL7. to go along with the Olympus cameras, the newer ones that have the Wi-Fi built in, Olympus has the Olympus Image Share app, and that has been updated, with the release of the PEN E-PL7. And one of the cool updates to that, and I won't go over all the changes in that too. I'm just going to talk about the one that I think is really cool. The Olympus cameras, the newer ones have, well, the EM10 and now the EPL7 have something called live composite mode. And what that allows you to do is, let's say you're going to shoot fireworks. And most people do it with a long exposure. They'll do like bulb mode, and they'll trigger the shutter. Shutter opens up, and it starts letting in light. And you're letting the fireworks happen. But while you're letting the fireworks happen, you're also exposing for ambient light. And if you go for too long, even if it's night, you're still going to get like a bright background from city lights, or if it's the blue hour, the sky just gets really blue, and it can kind of takes away from your fireworks photos, or if you're doing long light trails from cars going down the road, etc. Live composite does something completely different that allows you to capture those images. What it does is it takes an initial photo, which sets your base exposure for this whole scene, right? So the sky is black in the background. That's your background. That's your initial image. Then it starts snapping photos at whatever interval you have set, like 3-second exposure times, and it keeps taking those over and over again and layering them on top of your base exposure. But the only thing that gets added to your image are changes in light. So again, fireworks. If you had 4 fireworks go off after your initial base exposure, those are the only things added. So you always maintain that really dark background. It's a super cool feature, especially if you're going to do like a cityscape at night and you want to get all the cars turning down all the different streets, with the streaking tail lights and headlights. It's hard to do that with a long exposure because after just really a short period of time in bulb mode, all the lights on the buildings would just get too bright and it would wash out and it would ruin it. But with live composite, it's all done in camera. And I know that's a long lead into this thing for the Olympus Image Share app, but the cool thing is now with the Olympus Image Share app, as you're controlling your camera, you can control it in live composite mode and actually watch that image be created on your phone or tablet. Before, it was something you had to watch on your screen. So let's say you were doing something like I was doing over the weekend, chasing lightning, and I was trying to chase lightning near a highway because I wanted to get the cars streaking down the highway, long tail lights and all that stuff. But I had to stand out in the pouring down rain to do this. Now I could have just sat in my car and just leaned back with my phone and just watched the exposure happen. When it was done, I could have just hit stop, ran out, brought my gear back in the car, and had my shot. So,
and you could have done that for a couple lightning bolts even.
Exactly.
If you stayed in there,
Yep, because the background would never overexpose.
Right.
I would only add new light to the image. So, again, kind of a cool thing, and I'm being really brief for the sake of the show's time frame here by not telling you all the stuff that comes out with the new camera and the new app. So I just suggest you kind of head over to the Get Olympus website and read about the new pen to see what all else it has other than what I just mentioned. So that's kind of my little news. My excitement for the day was the release of that camera.
Yeah, I think that camera too, paired with what is it, the 14-42, the EZ lens. That's a great combination.
Oh, definitely.
It's just small, throw in a bag real quick, and also the other day I was listening to a podcast, Derek Story, where he said it doesn't seem like they held back anything. Like they just did a great job, made it solid, like the EM10. They brought it out, and even though it's the lower model of the OMDs, boy, nothing's held back on the 10.
Yeah. It's the only thing really that you're lacking in that is weather sealing.
Yeah.
It's a good gateway into Micro Four Thirds. I've had 3 people today tell me that they're interested in getting into a serious camera, but they don't have like a huge budget. They still want the interchangeability of lenses, And I say, well, I'm biased, so I'm going to point you in the right direction. And I point everybody initially, to the OMD EM10, just because it's super capable. It does everything anybody needs it to do and more.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's an awesome camera. I'll tell you, I've shot a lot more with it lately because I just went out on that trip. We had a workshop, put together a workshop in Chicago, and we had 8 people that came with us. And one of our people that I run it with there, Alana. So her Canon goes and breaks. So guess what? Here's the guy with the EM1. I let her shoot with the EM1. I shot with the 10 the whole weekend, and she's probably going to watch this and wonder, well, when did she convert? And I met her today, gave her more info. But
yeah,
I know she loved it though. It was a real great time for her.
that's super awesome.
Yeah.
So like I had alluded to in the initial episode, periodically I'd like to probably share some photos that we've been shooting, and it's been 2 weeks since we last talked, so I do have a few things that I shot over that last couple of weeks. So I'll try to be brief, and I'll share those really quickly with you, with everybody watching. All right, so again, one of the perks of our mirrorless cameras is that they're really easily adapted to use legacy glass. So periodically I like to get out these old Minolta lenses that I have. They're old Roker X 50mm 1.4 and a 28mm 2.8 that I have. And I like to throw them on one of my cameras. And this was the 50mm 1.4 put on the PEN EP5. And this is straight out of camera with a black and white, at least a monotone setting that I kind of cooked up in camera. It's so easy to do. I set my camera into monotone mode, and I bump the contrast as high as it goes and the sharpness as high as it goes, and I set the color filter to red. Yeah. And this is the JPEG straight out of camera. And I love the grain. It has just a beautiful feel to the grain pattern in these black and white shots straight out of camera. But the way it works is I set my camera to RAW plus JPEG. So as I'm looking through the viewfinder, this is exactly what I saw in the viewfinder. And the JPEG that comes out is, well, your JPEG preview on your viewfinder, so you know what you're getting as you shoot. So, again, legacy glass on our cameras is always fun, and you can get those lenses for so cheap sometimes. Yeah. And I guess here we go. Let's try it that way. And my wife and I go for a walk every evening. So again, taking advantage of the in-camera filters. This is done with Dramatic Tone Art Filter. You can set it to color or black and white. This is in black and white. And this was shot with the, what was I shooting this with? The 9mm body cap lens, the fisheye body cap lens. But in camera, I changed the aspect ratio to 16:9, which was a little tip given to me by a fella named Joe Ferrace, who's like super cool guy, and kind of clued me in on setting the aspect ratio to 16:9, so you cut out some of the excess information at the top and bottom, and it goes from like crazy fisheye to just like crazy wide angle in camera. So again, straight out of camera. And one of my favorite things to do is hook up with some friends and go out shooting. So I've got this like freakish passion for shooting storms and clouds, and we were supposed to get some weather on Saturday night, and called up my buddy Mark Miller and headed down to a town just south of me, Jackson, Michigan, and told him, hey, meet me on top of the parking garage downtown Jackson, and we'll shoot up there as the storms come in. And so as Mark was shooting with his EM5, I had to get a picture of him shooting the epic sunset that we got to witness, which was pretty cool. So in the same evening, we went from this sunset, which was phenomenal, to a fireworks show on the other side of town. And this was shot, and this was me playing around with a couple of different things here. Basically, this is with the 75-300 on EM1. And what I did is I had pre-focused on the area where the fireworks are actually at, so I'm out at 300mm. And as the fireworks started to spread open, I pulled focus back. Actually, I pulled not just focus, but focal length back. And it kind of gave me this crazy look where the fireworks actually come out in front of the building. I mean, these fireworks are 3 miles away, 4 miles away.
I was just going to say, those are pretty far, aren't they?
Yeah, they're so far away. And it ends up pulling them like right in front of the building, which is just kind of a wild effect. Cool. So again, another example of the fireworks just playing with pulling focus. And then I ended my night doing what I said, is I ended up going out near the highway and chasing lightning and got like one single bolt. I actually got like 4 or 5 good shots, but didn't even bother to review the images on the camera until I had 3 or 4 good ones and noticed that my lens was completely saturated with water. So all the lightning bolts were zigzagging through these big blobs of refracted light on the lens from the water droplets. So it was kind of a fail for me to shoot the lightning. I got one photo and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So and yeah, that's it pretty much for me. I guess what I've been up to the last couple of weeks, chasing lightning and failing at it, and but just hanging out with friends and shooting, and it was a pretty good time.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, let's see. Why don't I'll go through and share a couple here and see if we can get something going here. I don't know where. Let me find out where my stuff is at real quick. My screen share is not working well, but hold on. Come on. Here we go. Here we go. All right.
In the meantime, everybody can watch me eat a pickle.
Yeah. Yeah, hang tight. Now we're not...
Now we're watching me.
Did it come up at all? No.
Nope. Oh, so click the screen share button on the left and then click on the window that pops up that shows Lightroom.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Here, I'll tell you what. Let me get this. Sorry everyone. We'll get this right.
It's growing pains.
Yes, definitely.
There we go.
You got it? All right. I'll just move some of this stuff off. Make it a little bit easier. So this first one, you can see it now, you said, right, Jamie?
Yep.
Great. This first one is obviously we took a workshop, we gave a workshop over in Chicago for about 2 days and brought a great group of photographers, some from Philly, some from Chicago, of course a few from Detroit. And we had a great time. We walked 28 miles in 3 days.
Wow.
And put a lot of mileage on our feet. But this was our nighttime shoot. We were getting out by Lake Michigan to shoot the skyline. And this is actually, this is not a Micro Four Thirds camera. This is the TG3 stuck on a monopod with about 6 feet long. And basically I just stuck it down into Lake Michigan with the OI app as I was watching it. And as the waves lifted, I just kept snapping the picture as soon as I could see the skyline, or of the city line of Chicago. So it almost looks as if you were floating in the water there. And about 10 seconds after, just something you don't know that everyone, of course, probably was laughing at me. Some huge boat came by and threw a wake up that just about squashed me. Everybody else was dry. But yeah, you got to be careful when you're shooting like that. But that was a cool shot. Cool shot, that TG3. This shot here is Holy Name Cathedral down in the city of Chicago, 140 years old this year. That shot with the 25, that is with the EM10, shot with the 25 millimeter app. An interesting thing about this one is that's at 2500 ISO. And when you're looking at a full screen, you're amazed at just how clear this thing is, how deep and far back it goes. It's just a beautiful, beautiful church that we were able to get in just for a little bit. We thought we were going to get in a few hours, but the weddings had a different idea Saturday, so we had to go find another one. But and then of course we did some street shooting. That's what it was all about. And we got a rainstorm that the heavens opened on Saturday, and we were all caught in a huge rainstorm. But needless to say, I pulled out my TG3 actually and shot this one. It was just had finished raining, but just a cool dude walking through the city of Chicago, some street shooting. Next morning we were out, and the Ironman competition was in Chicago, and this is the biking portion. They were racing down below on Lower Wacker. Below the city, and just we're working on our panning. We had about 8 of us out there, working on panning, and so to get this one shot, that's probably 150 that I had to throw out. But that's what panning is, you have to keep working at it. This one was shot with a 12-40 Pro lens on the EM10. And I just really like the panning shots, and when I could get them into black and white, they're even more special, I think, that way. And one last one I had to throw. This is one of our workshop attendees, Christine, and the reason, although she is shooting Canon, I try not to hold that against her for now. She'll probably watch this too and laugh. But The double exposure, just certain things you look at, they're in the camera on that EM10 or even the EM1 and don't use them enough. But this came out great. We were on a boat tour, architecture boat tour through the Chicago River, and I tried to get everybody a shot of everyone and picked one of the buildings that they were near for the second shot. And so it's a real architectural shot, everybody looking up and taking shots. So yeah, that's where those are just a couple. That's our Chicago weekend. Shot some other things during the week, but I think that was the biggest thing happening there. So
I love the idea that you shot double exposures of each person in in a building that they were shooting. It makes a really cool memento for everybody.
Yeah, and that was it. I think when they all got them, they said, "Oh, geez, I didn't even know you were doing that." Yeah, well, that was the idea.
It's like you said, there are so many features built into these cameras anymore, and sometimes I feel bad. I'm like, man, I should try to utilize a little bit more of what it can do, and you just forget sometimes. And I'm glad that you reminded me of that one.
Yeah.
It's definitely a practice in the art side of things, to compose two shots together and get something that works like that is pretty.
Yeah, definitely. You have to keep looking at it. You have to keep wondering where to go next.
Yeah.
So
I guess the next thing that I'll talk about is the thing I'm like the most excited about every year this time of year. Is the Scott Kelby Worldwide Photowalk that's coming up in October. It's October 11th. In case any of you photographers watching this show are totally oblivious to anything huge going on in the world of photography, or at least it's huge to me, so I won't pick on you about it. But so every year I host one of the Scott Kelby Photowalks here in Michigan. Usually I host it at this nature center that's towards the east side of the state, more towards Mike's area. But this year I decided to kind of change things up a little bit and give people closer to me an opportunity to attend one of my walks. Well, it's not mine, it's Kelby's, right? But I'm running it. So, and because every year I try to make it like a big fun event, I have stuff for people. I do giveaways. I try to lure people in with that. But I wanted to kind of get into an area that was not only close to home and, good for people that I know personally in the area to be able to attend, but to get out of my normal comfort zone. Most of the time I'm shooting, nature and wildlife stuff and landscapes, and to get myself into an urban setting, I decided to choose the state capital of Michigan, downtown Lansing. So for anybody who is within driving distance, or if you're just outside of driving distance, that's not an excuse. You should probably try to come anyways. It's going to be downtown Lansing. We're going to meet on the steps of the state capitol Saturday, October 11th at 11 a.m. The walk will run for a couple of hours. If you go to my Kelby page, which we'll have a link to on the YouTube channel, if you go there for the walk information, it shows like a route. They had it set up like they wanted you to put a route in, so I just started clicking and just put a route on. We're gonna walk wherever. It's a pretty cool area. There's some stuff to see there, so it's fun, and people just kind of disperse and do their own thing. People get into little groups and walk around. But so this year I've got a friend from Olympus who's flying in for the event, and I'm super stoked that she's gonna be there. And with her are coming 4 OMD EM1s and 4 OMD EM10s. Those are what we call test drive kits. If you attend and you get there early enough to ask for one, you will be loaned one if you want to use one for the duration of the walk. The OMD EM1s will come with the 12-40 f2.8 Pro lens. So that's a completely weather sealed system. It's a rock solid. It's my workhorse system. It's actually, well, this body right here. So we'll have 4 of those. Yes, it is. It's awesome. And so we'll have 4 of those, and then we'll have 4 of the OMD EM10s, and I'm going to stand up, grab one off my shelf, and this is like exactly what you would get. So this is like the thing that Mike and I talk about a lot, that we carry all the time because it's so small. So we'll have
right up back there. Yep.
So we'll have 4 of these, although I don't have the lens on this that you will get to borrow. You'll get to borrow this camera in the 14-42 Easy, which Mike mentioned earlier, which is the same focal length as this lens, but it's all electronic, so it's actually really small and it telescopes out. Super cool setup. And in addition to those 8 camera bodies, yeah, Mike's got it right there.
There it is, right there. It's on right now. Yep.
And in addition to those 8 bodies, I also have requested that they bring 2 of the 75mm f1.8, which I love showing this lens because it's so freaking sexy, and I have it in silver too. Just there's a big honking piece of sexy glass on the front of this thing. Two 75mm f1.8s that'll be on loan to whoever is using one of the test drive kits, or if you show up and you have your own Micro Four Thirds camera, you can borrow one of these. I have two of those. I'll have two of the 25mm f1.8s, which Mike shot that incredible church with in Chicago.
Mhm.
And I will have two of the 45mm f1.8s. Those are three of the more popular prime lenses that Olympus has. So, again, I'll have 8 cameras, a boatload of lenses. Those are all for you to loan out, to borrow during the walk. So you hear me running my mouth about mirrorless. I'm putting the mirrorless where my mouth is, and you can come try them out. And if we run out of them, borrow one of mine. Okay. And Mike will be there.
Yep.
Did I say that? Mike will be there. Mike's coming over.
Yep, I know. And I'll have a couple lenses, I think.
And I don't know how I forgot to mention that, but super excited that Mike is coming.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that you can borrow. And I'm going to give away a few things. So my buddies over at borrowlenses.com, who I love to death because they're like super supportive of like everything that I've done. They've always been there to help, and they're just freaking cool. So they're going to donate two $150 like gift certificates or credits that you can use to rent equipment from them. And they have everything. I mean, they have stuff I don't even understand what it does. It's just stuff you need a PhD to run probably. But so $250 gift certificates from them. And I think they're going to toss in a couple of T-shirts or hats or something like that. So I like swag is always kind of cool. And of course, being an Olympus fanatic, Olympus is donating a OMD EM10 and a Tough TG3, both cameras that just coincidentally happen to be mentioned on today's episode.
Yeah, how about
the TG3, which that's down here, and I'm not going to stretch. I'm too lazy. It is their ruggedized point-and-shoot camera, which also has the ability to shoot via the Wi-Fi app from your phone, which is kind of cool to be able to do that, which is how Mike got that shot over the side of a boat 6 feet down. And it does the crazy macros I think I've discussed in the first episode maybe. And then, you know, of course, the OMD EM10. I mean, this is a ridiculously cool giveaway, I think. So show up. Come to the event October 11th at 11 a.m. in Lansing, Michigan at the state capitol. Just meet us on the steps of the capitol. Just look for all the crazy people with cameras and borrow a camera or maybe win one. And just come hang out and have fun. It's always a blast to do. So.
Well, that's a great thing to have all those test drive kits, because everybody I know that I've shot with over this past weekend and still continue to shoot with that have, you know, either full frame or DSLRs. And, oh, you know, okay, can I borrow yours? Can I do this? Can I do that? You know, they can come out and use that thing. You know, get there early, and actually might even walk away with the M10.
Yep.
You know, and it could be in 2 weeks. They could be like our buddy there. We should shout out to Bill Booz.
Yeah.
Is selling his final pieces of his DSLR, Canon DSLR. In case you know anybody out there, you can find him on Google Plus and Facebook, and I'm sure he'd love to sell it to you because he wants to pick up that EM1. So. So he'll be fully converted.
You know, and that's why I'm always willing to hand out one of my cameras to somebody, you know, or actually I've got two of my flashes, the FL600R flashes, the hot shoe flashes for these. A buddy of mine is borrowing them to take them to Florida because he's just kind of transitioning over to Micro Four Thirds. He's still got a Nikon D7000 or something, or 7100, and he wants to sell that. He just wants to take these flashes on a shoot to 100% solidify in his mind that he can make that move. And I think he already knows he wants to. I think he's just trying to justify it with his wife maybe to make that financial investment. But, you know, I'm glad to hand stuff out to people and just let them see, you know, because you won't know unless you try it. And shooting things side by side, you know, if you pull up your APS-C or, you know, depending on what you're shooting, your full frame camera and take a shot, and then pick up one of these and take a shot, you're not always going to see a difference, you know. So why not go light? Why carry all that big heavy stuff? That's how I feel anyways. I say that as I carry around the lightest bag possible.
Yeah, you got that right.
So I guess that's about the 30-minute mark. We're actually like 30 seconds under it.
Yeah.
If you've got anything else to add, Mike, go ahead. And
No, I'm real excited about the photo walk. The Kelby thing is going to be fun. I think the excitement of those companies being able to give us stuff to give away is just amazing. And more kudos to them. And if you're on the sites, make sure you hit their like buttons on their Facebook pages and that stuff. Make sure you're following them because that's part of it. Reciprocal, I guess, in every way.
And even if you're not going to attend the walk, and if you still think that what they do is cool by supporting, the smaller community, at large, then mention it to them. Just drop by the Good Olympus Facebook page and say, hey, I saw what you were doing with Jamie's Photowalk in Michigan. That's totally cool. We dig that you do that. They're probably more willing to support events in your area if you get things going. And the same with companies like Borrow Lenses. And I say the same thing about Think Tank Photo. I use nothing but their bags, because they are 150% supportive of the small guy, the people who aren't the big, huge names in the industry. They support everybody from the Benjamin Von Wongs down to the Jamie McDonald's, They're totally cool. So Olympus, Borrow Lenses, you'll hear me talk about Think Tank Photo. Just like Mike said, just give them a little credit where credit's due.
Yep. Good deal.
So I guess that's kind of a wrap. Again, we're always open to feedback, comments, suggestions, criticisms. I'll take it all. I have thick skin. But what I really like is when you click the like button or the thumbs up button on the YouTube page, and if you click the subscribe button and share us, find us on Google Plus and circle us, and find us on Twitter, Mirrorless_MIN, because Mirrorless Minutes is just too long to type out, and it takes up too much of your precious tweet. So look us up and tune in 2 weeks when we come back and talk some more Mirrorless talk.
That sounds great, everybody. See you soon.
Take care.
See ya.